What are you doing here?
Question and answers, or you can do anything you damn well please, your Stan Lee.
Well, allow me to go home. I got people waiting for me. But if it's questions and answers, what if I don't know the answer?
You'll do what you always do, you make something up.
Listen, for God's sake, ask easy questions. It's been a tough weekend. All right, here we go. A moment that stands out. As I say, except when I would finish a story, I'd, oh, thank God. And then I'd realize, now I got another one to write. So it just went on forever.
All right, thank you.
Hello, I'm Evan from Chicago. And first off, I'd just like to thank you for everything you've done. My question is, could you share a heartwarming fan moment with us?
I didn't get that clearly.
So Evan from Chicago wants you to share a heartwarming moment from a fan at one of the conventions.
Well, some of the heartwarming moments, seriously, there's a charity called, what is it called, where they get their favorite wish? Make-A-Wish. And usually at every place I go, there's somebody who's been ill, and his wish was to come to the convention and meet me. And I can't tell you how emotional that makes me feel. I'm sure it makes everybody feel that way when the wish is to meet that person. So I'm not naturally and normally a nice guy, but I have to try to be nice for 5 minutes with that person. It's hard as hell. But those are moments that I remember. I guess I'll always remember.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Stanley. I'm Elijah Cannon from Chicago. I was wondering, my friend and I, Maxwell, always get into a debate over who's the better Avenger, Captain America or Iron Man. I was wondering from you, what did you think?
You know, you probably think I'm the most perfect human being that you've ever known. I have to tell you, I do have a flaw. I do not hear as well as I used to. I heard your voice, but I couldn't make out the words, so I'm sorry, but what did he say?
So Elijah from Chicago wants to know, out of the Avengers, who's your favorite, Iron Man or Captain America?
Well, if I say Captain America, would you want Iron Man to be mad at you? If I say Iron Man, would you want to have to duck that damn shield all the time? It's so tough for me. I don't have a favorite because I love them all. My favorite was usually the one that I was writing at the moment, you know, because I was involved in them. But I think they're all so wonderful and clever and brilliant. It's hard for me to imagine that I made them all up.
Thanks, Elijah.
Hi, my name is Robert. I'm from Austin, Texas. Good to see you and your cohorts, Stan. My question is that with the current affairs happening in the Middle East with Syria, Afghanistan, and Iran, I was wondering, will there be, you travel a lot, I was wondering if you will be able to do a USO tour to visit our servicemen and women serving over there.
A USO tour in the Middle East?
Yes.
It's funny, I've never been invited to do that. I think if I were, it would be damn hard to say no. But nobody's asked me that. We do send a lot of comic books to our troops all the time. And I don't think I've ever been to a convention when some troops, some servicemen haven't come over and we talk for a while and it's great. And again, you couldn't say no to the USO if they ever asked you. Impossible.
Thank you, sir.
I am RJ from Chicago. First, I want to say thank you for my childhood. And
I heard that. Whenever anybody says thank you, I hear it so clearly.
and thanks for the majority of my adulthood, too. I wanted to know if there was any hero or storyline you would want to work on that you haven't had the chance to. What hero would it be, and what might you do with it?
Well, it's a difficult thing to answer because it's like saying, is there any story you wish you had written? I don't know any stories that I haven't written. I think I've written them all. I don't think there are any stories left to write. But I think the Avengers, when I saw the Avengers movie, I was so glad that I had written an Avengers comic book, because I thought that movie was just great. And there was a great cameo, too. Oh, speaking of the cameo, for those of you who don't know this, I'm going to give you a little inside information so you can impress your friends later on. A lot of people wondered, how come the movie made so much money? The answer is so obvious. You mentioned my cameo. They made the cameo very brief and way at the end. And a lot of people missed it. Well, what does somebody say when they get out of the theater and they realize they missed my cameo? I've got to buy another ticket and go back. If not for my cameos, that movie would probably have made half what it made. And if you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn, I'll sell you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Max Steele from Chicago. I met you Friday, and I just wanted to tell you that I got your name, your signature that you signed. I got it tattooed, and you're such an inspiration to me. And I'm going to be a comic book artist too. I'm creating comic books, and I'm left-handed, so every time I look down, I'm going to see your name. That's all I want to say.
I couldn't make out what she said, but you had the most beautiful gestures that you imagined. What was the question?
The Pink Power Ranger would just like to thank you for autographing her arm, and she will never wash it off.
You can't. I use that indelible marker. You're very welcome. I can't understand people who want my autograph on an arm. I would think on a check maybe, but hey, to each his own.
Thank you. Hey, did I miss that? You actually she tattooed over the ink, so your signature is tattooed on her arm permanently.
Why are you surprised?
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Hi, Stan. My name's Tim. I'm from Chicago. And talking about your cameos, I mean, they're probably some of the best highlights of all the films that have been done. And one of the funniest moments was in The Amazing Spider-Man. When you did that scene, I actually laughed out loud. My wife and I were cracking up. So I was wondering, did they give you any direction as to what you should be doing in that scene, or was that just impromptu? And then also, what were you listening to in the headphones?
So if you'd like to know, in the cameo you did in The Amazing Spider-Man that just came out, how much direction were you given, how much choice did you have, and what were you listening to on the headphones?
I was listening to show you what a great actor I am. I wasn't listening to anything. I was pretending to be listening to something. And do you think a director would dare tell me? No, actually, the director was great, and it was all his idea. And I thought it was terrific. I thought it worked beautifully, and it was funny. And wait until you see the cameo that I just did the other day in Iron Man 3. You won't believe it. It gave me a chance to really perform. You're going to see the real Stan Lee on this.
Can't wait to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brian from Altoona, Iowa. And I was just wondering, you've spoken before in the past about how you really get a kick out of the movies, just seeing your characters that you created 40 years ago brought into life in flesh and blood, and how great that is. And we all enjoyed it too. And I was wondering if there's a specific casting, a specific, when an actor that was chosen for a certain part to play one of your characters that really stuck out to you as really great. It's really that hit the note. Like that was great casting, and that actor really was able to bring that character to life in a great way.
You know, it's awful to have hearing like mine. All I could make out of that whole speech was 4 years ago, and I was wondering. There must have been something more.
Absolutely. Brian from Iowa wants to know, out of all the characters that you created to become movie characters, which actor do you feel nailed it?
Again, do you think I'm going to mention one actor and all the others will never talk to me again? But they're all damn good. If you saw The Avengers, there wasn't a bad performance. They're great. I must say, the one I get the biggest kick out of, because there's always a touch of humor in what he does, and that's Iron Man. That's Downey Jr. I'll tell you a little personal something. I had lunch with him one day, and we went to my favorite restaurant in Los Angeles. And all I could think of when I was having lunch with him, because everybody recognized him, I was thinking they're going to treat me so well the next time I come in. They'll think he's a friend of Robert Downey Jr. Wow.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Stan. I'm Ryan from Peoria, Illinois. I just want to know, with all the twinkling vampire movies that have been out in Hollywood lately, do you think the world is ready for Michael Morbius in the next Spider-Man movie?
So Ryan wants to know, with all the hubbub lately in culture about vampires and sparkly vampires, will Morpheus be making an appearance in the next Spider-Man movie?
I guarantee that there's a whole group of people at Marvel sitting around saying, what else can we do? And it would be very unlikely if somebody doesn't say, how about Morpheus? So I'm sure sooner or later he will. There's no doubt about it. Every big character we've had, Doctor Strange, the Black Panther, they're even working on Ant-Man. So Morpheus is coming.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Mike Ragonia from Fairfield, Iowa, and I just wanted to ask you who your favorite musical Spider-Man is: Bono's Broadway Spider-Man, or Rock Reflections of a Superhero, narrated by Stan Lee.
At the beginning, I didn't get the end.
So Mike from Iowa, is that right? Wants to know, which is your favorite Spider-Man musical?
The Bono Broadway version, or your jaunt on...
Bono did a Broadway musical version of Spider-Man, or your version.
Did I do one?
Spider-Man Rock.
Which one was that?
Spider-Man Rock Reflections of a Superhero with Stan Lee.
You mean that old record I did years ago?
That old record.
You know, honest to God, I don't even remember what it was. I remember what the album cover looked like, but I can't, I'll have to go back and, I can't go back, I don't have it anymore. If somebody here has it, would you please play it on YouTube so that I can catch it? Why does everybody want to know what people's favorites are? Ah, remember that? Oh, that's some great cover. Ramita drew that. Does it mention my name? Right on the front cover. It's a good album. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Alex from Kansas City. I was wondering, so many characters, are there any that haven't made it to film yet that you'd like to see on the big screen?
Yeah, the ones I meant, if I heard them right, the ones I mentioned, Black Panther and Doctor Strange. I can't wait to see those. By the hoary hosts of Hoggett, they'll do it sooner or later.
Hi, I'm Josh from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was wondering, there's rumors of a Deadpool movie. Is there going to be one?
Josh from Cincinnati wants to know if there's going to be a Deadpool movie.
Are you sure he's from Cincinnati? Did he verify that? No. You have an ID?
Yes, I do, sir.
All right. I am sure There will either be a Deadpool movie, or he will be in a movie the way the Black Widow is, and sooner or later, if he's in a movie, he will eventually star in a movie. But Deadpool, and I hate to say this because I didn't create the character, he's very popular. Drives me crazy. There are a few characters I didn't create. I didn't create Wolverine. And I should have created Wolverine. I didn't know when I stopped writing this stuff that other people were going to create other things. I would have stayed there. Why give them a chance? Hey, that's the brace.
Hi Stan, my name is John, I'm from Chicago, and this is my son Casey. First off, Casey would like to say something to you.
Thank you for Marvel, Mr. Lee.
You are very welcome. Thanks for coming and for saying that.
My question to you is, when did you first realize how big Marvel was going to be, and what was your reaction when you...
I heard that. I got every word.
I like to speak clear.
I realized how big Marvel was becoming when the sales figures started coming in on the books. And after we did the Fantastic Four, and then, I forget, either the X-Men or the Hulk, whichever came next, and suddenly books that had been selling up here, when we looked at the figures, they were rising and rising, and suddenly we were selling more than National Comics, which became DC after a while. And I didn't need a house to fall on me. I said, we're on to something. So let's do more, let's do more. And we started knocking out all these things. And it was, I never had more fun because I was working with the greatest artists, the greatest visual storytellers that have ever been. Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, John Romita, John Buscema, Gil Kane, Don Heck, all these guys. They were brilliant, Gene Colan, and I loved them because they made my stories look good. No matter what I wrote, they drew it so beautifully. Everybody had, wow, look at that. I don't think they even read the words. They just looked at the pictures, and I got all the credit. What a wonderful arrangement.
Hi, my name is Robert, and what inspired you to make comics?
Robert wants to know what inspired you to start creating comics.
Did Robert say where he was from?
Robert, where are you from?
Chicago.
It doesn't make any difference where you're from. Everybody was saying, so I figured maybe it's important. What inspired me to make comics? Greed. I had to make a living. And in those days, it was tough to make a living. And I had this job at this comic book company. And all, you know, people sometimes say to me, did you ever dream that the things would be so big? Of course not. All that we thought of at the time we were doing these was, I hope the books will sell well enough so I'll keep my job and be able to pay the rent. And that's why I did the comics, just to make a living, while, I must say, while I kept thinking, there must be something better that I could do, but while I'm waiting to find it, I'll do the comics. That was before we did the Marvel books. Because before we did the Fantastic Four and the books that followed that, comics were just, nobody paid any attention to them. It was embarrassing to go to a party. People would say, what do you do? And I knew it was coming. So I didn't try to wait. I tried not to wait. I'd say, oh, I'm a writer, and I'd walk away. But they'd follow me. What do you write? Children's stories. Oh, what kind of children's stories? Anyway, at some point, I had to say comic books. After which, the person would walk away from me like I had the plague. Of course, now it's different. Now I go to a party, and people see me and they say, excuse me, President Obama, isn't that Stan Lee over there? That is a slight exaggeration.
We have a question right here up front.
Are you going to make a Marvel Civil War movie?
You want me to make another one?
A Marvel Civil War movie.
Well, we've done everything else. We might as well do that again. That was very popular, by the way. So maybe we will find a reason for our characters to fight each other. That's always fun when heroes fight each other. And then the villains jump in, and you don't know who to root for, so you don't buy the book, you go over to DC.
Yes, sir.
My name is David, and I'm from Chicago. How old were you when you started to make comic books?
Notice how proudly they say, I'm from Chicago. I like that.
David wants to know, how old were you when you started writing comic books?
I think I was 17. Wow. And yeah, I was about 17. 16 and a half, 17 in a couple months. I don't remember. Somewhere around there. I had just graduated high school.
Thank you.
I'm Elizabeth.
At least he didn't ask me for my favorite year.
I'm Elizabeth from Wisconsin, and one of our family's favorite activities is going to superhero movies, Marvel superhero movies, and one of our favorite activities in the movies is looking for your cameos, of course. And I was wondering if you have a favorite cameo appearance or one that you have a particularly fun story about.
Well, my favorite cameo, I heard all of that, or most of it. My favorite cameo is the one that I did in Iron Man 3, and I cannot tell you what it is. But at least, let's see, if there are 1,000 people here, I know we're going to sell 1,000 tickets, thank goodness. By the way, I didn't see an empty chair, did I? Because if I did, I'm leaving. What was the other part of the question? There was another part, I think. Okay, that took care of it. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Lee. My name is Conrado from the south side of Chicago. And I watched your Kevin Smith interview, and I saw how you got the inspiration for Spider-Man by watching a fly walking across the wall. I was thinking, what would happen if instead of Spider-Man, we got Flyman?
So he heard how you got your inspiration for Spider-Man by seeing a spider on the wall.
Actually, it was a fly. Right. It was a fly, but I ended up calling it Spider-Man. But in the interest of accuracy, because I know you're all taking notes, it was a fly.
That answers his question.
Oh, is that it, really? Okay.
Well,
no, I asked
that's
what would happen.
Hey. Take dictation and get up here then.
I said that what would change instead of Spider-Man, we got Flyman?
Would it have ever changed into Flyman?
I don't think so, because I felt that Spider-Man sounded more dramatic. See, I can say Spider-Man, but how do you go fly? Doesn't happen.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Peter Parker from Queens.
You're Peter Parker?
Yes.
Is that really your name?
I created you.
I lived in the hotel.
He's here for his allowance.
I was wondering if I could get a photo for the Bugle.
Yeah, any guy named Peter Parker, how could I say no? Where do we go from there?
Can I get a closer picture?
You're the boss.
No. Next question.
Hi, I'm Jason from Rockford, Illinois. I just like to say thank you for making so many movies, because I've worked in the movie theater for 10 years, and it's allowed me to keep my job, so thank you. I'd also like to ask you to tell us your favorite story.
Jason from Rockford wants you to tell your favorite story.
You know, I don't know whether you mean story that I've written or stories that I've read over the years, but I really don't have favorites. People are always asking me my favorite story, let's say my favorite movie. There are about 100 or 1,000 movies that I love. I don't know how to say I love this one better than that. For example, one of my favorite movies, which you'd never suspect, It's not a superhero movie. It's, if you ever saw My Fair Lady, I could watch that thing a million times. I could watch Gregory Peck made him To Kill a Mockingbird. Any Errol Flynn movie starting with Robin Hood. I mean, there are so many great movies, and the same with stories. I mean, anything by Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, Mark Twain, Charles Dickens. I don't know how you can have a favorite. I don't know how to evaluate. I love this one better than that one, you know? But I feel by not having a favorite, I'm frustrating you. And you should never frustrate a fan. So I feel I'm failing in some way up here. What was the question?
You could never fail. You could never fail.
Do you like lasagna?
I love lasagna. Thank you.
Mr. Lee, can you hear me?
Yeah.
First, can you say Excelsior? You have not said it in a while.
You want me to say Excelsior?
Yes.
I must have absolute silence. This is a very important moment, a very dramatic moment. Excelsior!
Second question. With the X-Men reboot, the Spider-Man reboot, do you know if they're going to collide with the Avengers universe?
So they've rebooted the X-Men and Spider-Man as far as the movies go and the comics in some instances. Are they going to do a crossover with the Avengers?
Oh, I'm pretty sure. Look, they will do anything that seems like a good idea. Now, I couldn't answer your question accurately because I don't know. I don't really go up to the Marvel offices because they're in New York, I'm in LA, they're busy, I'm busy. So I'm like you. I'm just as surprised as you are when these things come out, although I do talk to them occasionally. And anything that's a good idea, believe me, they'll do it sooner or later. Because the one thing, the guys who work at Marvel now are overgrown fans, and they think and feel just the way you do, and they like these characters the way you do, and they're sitting around all day saying, what can we do next? What'll be a cool idea? So whatever you're thinking of, the chances are they're thinking of it too. They may have even beaten you to it.
Thank God. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Hello, my name is Shauna Roberts. I'm from Bloomington, Indiana, and this is my first Chicago Comic Con, so I decided to get a tattoo this weekend. And my friends and I were discussing what Stan Lee could possibly have tattooed on him or would want tattooed on him.
Shauna wants to know, one, do you have any tattoos? And if not, what would you get if you got a tattoo?
I'd get yelled at by my wife. She'd say, how could you do anything to change any part of that magnificent body?
Exactly what she'd say.
Hi, Stan. My name's Josh. I'm from Indianapolis. I've been with my girlfriend for 3
Wait a minute. You didn't say Chicago. Did you say Minneapolis or Indianapolis?
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis?
Yep.
I was stationed for a while in the Army there. I loved it. Welcome to Chicago.
Thanks. Okay, Stan. I've been with my girlfriend for 3.5 years. I'm thinking about getting married to her. I was wondering, when did you know for sure that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with your wife?
When did you know that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with your wife?
I think the day I met her. If you ever heard the expression, love at first sight, I tell you what happened. When I was a kid, I used to draw. I do draw, though not as well as the guys who do the comics. And when you're a guy and you draw, you always like to draw beautiful women. Unless you're gay, then I guess you draw beautiful men. So there was one face and figure that I always used to draw. It was my ideal. So one day when I got out of the Army, somebody invited me up to a model agency, and he said, there's one model there, I think you'd like her, and she, he arranged a blind date for me. So I went up to the agency, and I knocked on the door, And the girl who answered the door was not the model I was supposed to meet. She was the head model who was the one who always answered the door to see if she wanted to let you in. So the door opened, and there was the face and figure that I had been drawing all the years that I was a kid. And then I heard the voice, and she was English, and I'm a sucker for an English accent. Something like, "Hello, may I help you?" And I looked at this angel standing there, and before I knew it, I think I said something like, "I love you." So anyway, we got married a couple of weeks later. That was it. Thank you. Can you tell her thank you also for sitting on your mother and forcing me to create Marvel?
I didn't even hear that.
Sorry. I said, could you also tell her thank you for spending all of your money and forcing her to make you create Marvel for all of us? We all appreciate it.
To thank your wife for putting up with you, and frankly, I'm going to call security on him for even.
She will appreciate that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jacob Minnick from Fort Wayne, Indiana. And my question is, Stan, when you have multiple ideas that you want to write about, how do you pick which one you're going to start working on?
Which one?
If you have multiple ideas, how do you know which one to start with? How do you pick?
I picked the best one. Well, I don't know how often I have multiple ideas. It's just tough enough to get one good idea. So usually when you're trying to write a story, you sit around and you scratch your head or whatever you do when you're thinking, and you look for an idea. Finally you get an idea, and you say, you're so relieved, you say, "At last I thought of something," and you start writing it. At least that's what I do. I don't know that I've ever had multiple ideas, because I usually settle for the first idea I have, because I'm so glad I got it. That's about it. If I get another idea later, I use that for the second story.
I just want to warn everyone, we got time for about 2 more questions.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Yes, sir, but we're all exhausted. You're wearing us out.
Hello, I'm Evie Pollard. I live in Philadelphia, and I was wondering if, what's your favorite Marvel superhero?
My favorite something?
Marvel superhero.
Well, I know I have to say something, so I'll say Spider-Man. Mainly because he seems to be the most famous, the best loved, and the best known throughout the world. So I'm not going to go against the world's judgment.
Hello, I'm Mike from Oak Forest, Illinois, and I was just wondering what the inspiration behind the Juggernaut character.
Mike wants to know what the inspiration was behind the Juggernaut character.
I wanted a guy who could run into things and nobody could stop him.
Thank you.
These things are very simple. They're very basic. They're not as brilliant as they may seem to be. You sit around and you think, you say, well, what new power can I get? A guy who, I always not mixed up, but I thought of the Juggernaut and the Blob at the same time. One guy, nothing could stop, and the other guy, nobody could move. So they were easy.
Hello, Mr. Lee. I'm Colin from Chicago, and I want to know...
Is that a Superman shirt you're wearing? Security?
So I was wondering, have you seen the mysterious Steve Ditko recently, or if at all?
Have you seen Steve Ditko lately at all?
No, not lately. I saw him quite a few years ago at the Marvel office when I was there. And we had a nice talk, and I said, why don't we do something together? He said, okay. And that was the last I saw him. I got busy, and he got busy, and I guess we never really followed through with it. I don't think he really wants to do any more scripts for Marvel, but I can't answer for him. I don't know. He's a hell of a nice guy. He's a genius in his own way, but he's a very private person. He doesn't do interviews. He's a hard guy for me to understand, but he is a nice, incredibly talented man.
And can you say Excelsior one more time?
Sure. Excelsior. That's the easiest thing I can do.
Hi, I'm Laura Pollard from Philadelphia, and I know you've been drawing most of your life. I was just wondering, when you first drew comics, what came in your mind first to draw?
When you first started drawing comics or writing, what? Say that again.
What came in your mind first when you were drawing comics?
What came in your mind first when you started drawing comics?
I hope people will like the story. I would only write a story that I thought I would like to read. A lot of writers write and they say, I'm going to write this for people in their 20s, or I'll write this for people of this type or that type. I don't know how other people feel. I can only know what I like. So I just try to write a story that I think I would like to read. Am I answering the question, or am I getting a field?
We just want to hear you talk.
Anyway, so that's the way it is. I'm sorry, I forgot what the question was.
When you were drawing comics, if you had some superhero in your mind, what would it be to draw first? What
would you draw first once you've come up with a character or a story?
Oh, well, once I came up with the character or story, because I just wrote them, I would find the fellow that I thought would be the best artist to draw that type of story, and I would give it to him, and I'd say, hey, do you want to draw this? And if he said, wow, that's terrific, I'll draw it, we did it. If he'd say, well, I don't know, I'd say, forget it, because I like enthusiasm, and I'd keep asking. But I was lucky. Usually at the first crack out of the box, they'd say, yeah, I like that, and we'd work together.
Thank you.
I see I'm going to have a competitor pretty soon. This man is going to go into the business.
Good morning, Mr. Lee. My name's JJ. I'm from Chicago. And first I want to say thank you for giving African-American females a role model. I came to the storm yesterday. You're the man.
I heard you're the man. That was good. Well, thank you for the thank you. I appreciate that.
But the question is, in the episode of The Big Bang, Sheldon was mad because he didn't get to go out with you for ice cream. Would you ever, if we all invited you to one of the after parties, would you go and hang out with us?
Would I ever?
In the episode of Big Bang Theory, you went out to have ice cream with Sheldon, and she wants to know if she personally asked you out on a hot date to go have ice cream.
Anytime. By the way, I love that show, and that was more fun for those of you who saw that episode of The Big Bang Theory. The producer happens to be a friend of mine, and he invited me to be on it, and I couldn't believe it. When you hear the applause and the laughter in that show, most people think, you remember they had those laugh meters where you push a button and people, this is really, it isn't the audience who laughs. They don't have an audience. This is the crew laughing. The actors are laughing, and it's just the most fun.
That was an example of MC's prerogative, by the way.
Get away from that mic.
I ad-libbed her question just a little bit, but you answered it fabulously.
I tend to do that.
Hi, Mr. Lee. I'm Jaron from Chicago. And I just want to know, I've been creating comic book characters, and do you have any advice for people who create comic book characters?
What advice would you give to someone who wants to create comic book characters?
Create them. No, I don't. That's the hardest. It may seem simple. That's the toughest question in the world. Obviously, the first thing you have to do is come up with a character that's different from all the others, which is not easy. But if you can come up with a character who in some way has different powers or a different personality or something different about him or her, then the second difficult thing is you have to find some elements in that person's character and personality and situation that's going to make people care about the character. Anybody can write about a character, but why should somebody want to read that story? Why do they read the stories of de Maupassant and not the stories written by Joe Blow, because he made characters that came alive. So you have to not only create a good character, but you have to find a way to make that character so interesting that people will want to read about him or her. And that's really all there is to writing, whether it's a comic book or a novel or whatever you're writing. A movie, a stage show, anything.
Thank you.
Last question.
Hi, Mr. Lee. I'm Amy from Chicago, and I first wanted to say thanks for all your work. I really love all your stuff. And I've always wondered, which X-Men character do you relate to and why?
Which X-Men character do you relate to and why?
Probably Professor X, because he's so damn smart. And also Patrick Stewart has become kind of a friend of mine. I'm sorry if this thing comes to an end, because I tell you, when I come to conventions, I usually have to spend a lot of time signing autographs, posing for pictures, and that's work. This is such fun. Can't we do this all day and not do the other stuff? There's nothing more fun than talking to fans.
You're the boss, technically.
No, I'm not. They have a schedule.
All right, folks, we want to thank y'all for coming out to see Stan Lee.